PowerPoint and Legos have a lot in common. First, they're both used to build stuff. Some good, some not so good. Second, they're both based on a grid. Whether you're looking at 1 piece, 2 piece, 6 piece, or an entire city of Legos, you'll notice that they all have consistent spacing. And PowerPoint is also based on a grid system. You can customize the grid to maximize your speed and precision, and that's exactly what we'll cover today in episode 6, Turbocharging Your Grid. In this episode, we'll cover 4 key topics. First, we'll cover what is the grid and the settings for it. Second, I will show you some customized shortcuts to get in and out of the grid settings. Third, I will share my own personal grid setting recommendations for you. And fourth, we'll do a before-after speed test with a standard out-of-the-box grid and my special tuned-up grid. All right, topic number 1 is what is the grid? Now to do this, let me step out of my presentation and show you. If we look at our slide, you're going to notice you don't see any type of grid system. If you go to the View menu and then look in the middle, you will see the grid lines right there. If you go ahead and click that, left click it, you'll have your grid show up. So that in and of itself is already a win. At this point, you can go ahead and use that for speed, get a general idea of where assets should be placed on the screen, but I can take you a lot further, and let's do that right now. All right, topic number 2 is what are some grid tuning keyboard shortcuts? And I want to discuss this because as you go along, you're going to want to fine-tune your grid based on the project that you're on. So let me show you what those are. First of all, this is a big one and you're gonna love using this. This is the View Hide Grid Lines keyboard shortcut, and it is Alt-W-G. You don't have to hold those down as you do it, but here's how it would work in real life. So right now you can see my grid lines, and sometimes that's a little too much visual clutter. So what you can do from a dynamic shortcuts standpoint is I will tap the Alt key, I will type the W key, you see that right up here on my screen, and then G gets you to grid lines. So you can turn those on and off. So if I do that fast, it would be Alt-W-G. So it's almost a telepathic ability to turn on and off your grid lines. That's a good day. The second shortcut I want to show you just to help you be real comfortable with tuning your grid is going to be getting into the grid settings. And that keyboard shortcut is Alt-W-X. Let me show you how that works, both from a slow mouse perspective, and then we'll get into it from the faster keyboard shortcut. Okay, so if we want to use that grid tuning shortcut, I will hit the Alt key, just give that a tap. You'll notice up here, there's the W, so I'm gonna tap W, and then X is this little tiny flyout area. You can either tap that or you can tap the X, and that will get you to the grid settings. So why that is a benefit to know that versus just that path is now you can just call it up on command, very quickly make some settings. Now you know how to get in and out of the settings to tune your grid. Let's talk about some recommendations for it. And here's would be my preferences. So first of all, let's just look at the standard grid settings. And you're gonna notice there is a sad emoji over here by that. So you're gonna notice that we have no object snapped to the grid, and that would give you that ability to have your object, as you push a directional arrow right, left, up, or down, follow and track exactly where your grid is at. The second thing you're gonna notice is that the settings are set for 1/24 inches. That's a very tiny increment. So every time you tap a directional key, you are barely moving your object. And we can do much better if you want to work fast and precise. You'll also notice that the grid is not displayed, and it's just a bad deal. What we want to do for some recommended settings are these. First of all, let's set that setting larger, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But let's go 1/2 inch for starters, make that much quicker. The next thing is I want you to set snap objects to the grid. and display that grid on the screen. Remember, you can always hit Alt-WG and turn it off at times when you need a little less visual clutter. And then fourth, what I'd like you to do is display the smart guides on the screen. So as you're dragging assets around, you'll have that additional bit of alignment assistance. And here's the big secret, is hit Set Default. When you hit Set Default, that will lock in all of those settings for the next time you open up a brand new PowerPoint file. Your settings are tuned. So let me show you how that looks in motion. We are back here on our PowerPoint file, and I'm going to use my Alt-WG setting to just turn back on the grid. And then let's use our Alt-WX setting to get to the grids and guides. And remember, if you're not a keyboard shortcut person, what you do from the home menu is hit View, and then there's this little flyout box here below the notes section. You'd click that and you can get to it. So it is a free country. If my keyboard shortcuts are just not your jam, you can get to it the mouse way as well. Okay, so remember I said let's snap the objects to the grid. I'm going to turn that on. We said let's set the spacing to about 1/2 an inch. We want to display the grid on the screen. Let's turn on our smart default settings and let's set that as our default. Now you're going to notice immediately a couple big things have changed. Our grid is a lot roomier. There's more to it. Now every time I move an object around, it's going to move very fast. All right. If we compare that to the default settings, so let me just go back with my Alt-WX and let's unsnap. Let's put the default settings back to 1/24 an inch and let's set that as the default. Let me take this same little grid and guide image and I'm just hitting the directional key and we're getting almost no movement right there. And that's a slow boat, not a pro move. So let's go back, let's reset that to my recommendation, which is snap the object to the grid. Let's do 1/2 an inch and let's set that back as our default setting. And now we're cooking with gas right there, all right? By the way, here's a little bonus for you. There's a feature called Nudge, and this is where you can have your cake and eat it too. So we've got a larger, roomier grid, but with Nudge, you can hit the Control key and your directional keys, and you still get really small, fine-grained control. And let me show you what I mean. All right, here is my directional. What I'm gonna do is just use some right and left arrows on this now that we have a 1/2 inch grid, and you can see it's moving around really fast. But if I wanted to precisely align this, it's almost like you're bringing a boat into a dock. Once you get to a certain point, you need to slow the engine down. If I hold the Control key down while tapping the directional keys, now I get fine-grained, precise control. That's Nudge, and that gives you that ability to have a fast grid when you want it and precision when you need it. You now have some grid recommendations. Let's do a before and after speed test, and you'll see how this Pro Move really helps speed up your workflow. Okay, let's do a before and after speed test using 10 keyboard clicks. First of all, Joker will be using our standard out-of-the-box grid settings. Batman, of course, our hero, will be using my custom tune settings. So let's start with Joker. Okay, Joker, so first of all, we need to get your grid settings back to normal, which is 1/24. No snapping to the grid. We'll leave the grid display on and we'll set that to default. And let's do 10 clicks. On your mark, get set, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not impressive, he barely moved. Now time for Batman. Let's set those grid settings. Alt-WX gets us to our settings. We're gonna snap the grid. We're gonna set it to 1/2 an inch, and let's set that as our default. Are you ready for Batman? 1, 2, 3, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the winner is Batman. Hey, thanks for sticking around. You've just discovered how to turbocharge your grid for speed and precision. If you liked the video, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, if you'd give it a thumbs up, and if you'd tell a friend. Feel free to check out our hyper-detailed blog post on the link below. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more PowerPoint Pro Moves.